begin with, we're going back to the assets folder. We are going inside the materials folder and we are creating a new material by means of right clicking on the project window, going to create and clicking on material. Now I'm going to name this as wall. Now once you create a material inside Unity inspector window, you have a couple of options which you could play with. And to begin with, base map is the one which gives you the color of the material. So a wood looks like wood. Why? Because you have some sort of a color and texture on it. Now these things can be achieved by playing around with all of these parameters like base map and normal and height maps and metallic. All these textures are easy to find, so I'm going to show you which website to go for. My go-to choice is this website called Ambient CG. So let me just go ahead and type it out. It's www.ambientcg.com. Now this website is like pretty neat and it has a lot of materials, the standard textures which you could use. It's nothing fancy, it gets the job done. I am clicking on explore all and I have like a lot of materials to choose from. So what I'm going to look for is something which is probably clean. It's a plaster 003. Okay. Now, when you look at it, this is basically showing how the texture would look. And you have a lot of options for you to download. So you have anywhere from 1K to 8K. So 8K is going to be like quite large in terms of the file size, which gives you more detail. But again, you need to remember you are developing for VR. So you need to make sure to keep the quality and the size in balance. You cannot afford to have like a texture which is gigantic and eating up your performance. I am going to go for 1K to begin with since it's a demo. The moment you download the texture, it is going to be in a zip format again. So make sure to unzip it and drag the unzip folder into the Unity. Now I am going to add these textures to the wall material. But before I do that, I would like to pin the inspector window to the wall material so that when I change the directory or when I click on some other material, I don't want their properties to be seen. So the way to do it is by means of going to the lock button, which you can see here, and click on that. So that prevents my inspector window from changing to any other property. Now I can go ahead and double click on the plaster 003, which I've basically downloaded and imported. There are multiple maps which you would find, but the key ones are the color, which is going to give you the actual color. So you can just double click on it to see what it is. So we see the texture of the wall here, the plaster texture, which you can see here. And then you have a displacement, normal, roughness. Now these are the top 4 or 5 which we would be using. You might find a couple of textures less in some other websites. That's totally fine, but the important file to use or the image to use is the color. That is going to give you the actual texture of the wall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it and drop it on the base map. Why? Because like I said, that is going to be the base layer, the texture layer. All right, now you can see the ball here. The preview ball has some sort of a texture applied to it. And I'm going to add the roughness to say the height map. Okay. And probably I am going to do normal for normal, and it says the texture is not marked as normal map, so let's go ahead and fix it. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. Let's apply this material and see how it changes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this, plaster material, the wall material from outside, and I'm going to drop it on the model. Okay, so we see some sort of a change, but whether it is something which we need or not, let's see. This looks quite coarse. Let's try adjusting it a little bit to see if tweaking a little bit with the materials normal map setting has given us some sort of a nice texture around the rims here and here. Now there are things which will not work as we require. For example, I wanted the texture to apply on the wall literally, but the way the model has been designed, the UV maps are not that great. Now, what do I mean by UV maps? Any 3D object you would like to apply texture on it, you have a map called UV map, which basically unfolds that map. Say for example, you have a box, then the box would be literally unfolded and you would do your texture pattern on that, and then you wrap that literally on top of the box. It's literally like how you do a gift wrap on a gift, right? So what happens is the texture gets applied on all side of the 3D object which you would like to do. The problem rises when the UV maps are not done properly, and you will end up with something like this, what we see right now, where the texture is applied to the frames and walls and it is literally not going to the wall. But for now this is fine. Maybe I will do another video on how to do a proper UV on models which we download from the internet. But let's go ahead and continue. Now, since we see how the UV map here is, I would prefer these frames to be in a wooden tone than a plaster tone. This looks like a game from maybe like 80s. So let's go ahead and change that texture to wood. Now again, I'm going to go back to the website Ambient CG, and I'm going to search for some other material here. So wood, yes, this looks good, but should we be using light or dark? I think I would go for a darker tone. This one maybe. Again, I'm going to download it, and once that's downloaded, I am going to extract it and bring in the folder inside Unity. This step never changes. That's how you get things inside Unity. You need to drag and drop, or you can use file import, but you need to bring it to the project window in order for you to use it inside this scene. Now I'm going to rename this because this is not wall anymore. I'm going to name it as wood material, and I am going to change each and everything. Now again, I'm making sure that this lock is on so that things don't change the moment I open or change another folder. Going inside this, I'm going to drag and drop the color over there. Ooh, that looks good. And also the roughness on the height maps and normal map on this. Yes, I could see the frames having like a little bit of a texture, which is nice. And yeah, this also looks like a wooden cabin, almost wooden cabin. Now there are other things which you could play with, for example the smoothness, because wood tend to have not much of smoothness, so I'm reducing it a bit. And definitely not metallic because obvious, it's wood. The floor has quite nice tone to it. I really like it. I'm also going to add a little bit of a detail input. So I'm going to add the same wood color to the base map here, and a normal map on the normal map here, and a little bit of adjustment to make it a bit more realistic. Okay, this looks fine, but it looks very underlit. So first thing which I'm going to do is to change the directional light. Let's go ahead and create a material for the bathtub. And the way to do it is, again, right click on the empty space, create material, and I'm going to name it bathtub material. Again, I'm going to lock my inspector window so that it shows the bathtub material. Now, once I've created the material, all I need to do is just drag the material and drop it on whatever the element I want. So this, I'm going to apply the marble on the bathtub as well as the sink which we have for washing hands, and as well as the loo. Okay, now these things are textured. Now you can see the way the bathtub looks quite detailed. I really like the way it is looking, and you can say that the modeler has actually done a pretty good job in doing the UV map, and that's why it looks like how it'll look in real life. You don't see it to be like stretched somewhere or looking really unnatural like how it was for the walls. What I would like to texture is probably the taps. I would like it to be shiny, so let's create another material and we're gonna name it chrome, maybe. Yeah, chrome. Do I need, again, make sure to unlock the inspector window, else you would be working on some other material. Now I would like it to be little shiny, so I'm gonna make it this more metallic, and smoothness maybe like that so that it can reflect what's around. Let's drag the chrome and drop it on the taps. Okay, that's a little shiny, not as much as I expected, but yeah, that's something we could work with. And another material for not so shiny, but maybe a dark button or dark slots. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, and make sure to rename black metal. The only one texturing which I would still do is create a light texture. That is something which I'm going to apply on the false, the ceiling lights, the panel lights you call it. The properties which I'm going to change in that is probably enable emission and change the emission color to white, which will make it a little brighter. So let's just do that, probably increase it a bit more. Yeah, okay, now that looks good. Drag and drop the light again in all the other lights. So I've added almost all texture which is needed. The bathroom is a little dark, but I think it works. Once the global illumination is done, our scene is set. Let's go ahead and save it. Now, as usual, in order for us to use this as an XR project, all we need to do is right click and choose XR, choose XR origin action based. And the moment we do that, we see something drastic. What happens is the URP is kicking in and it looks like our direction light is quite bright. So let's reduce that to a level which is manageable, maybe that. Yes, so now we can also see all our lights glowing here quite heavy. The glows here, go to post-processing volume and probably bring it down a notch. It's too much happening right there. Let's reduce the bloom intensity. Okay, and I'm going to play around with the light material. It looks like it's quite bright, so I'm going to change the emission map and reduce the brightness, and that looks like something I can work with. So let's save it. We have XR origin in place, and make sure to place your XR origin inside the scene. So let's reset the position to 0, 0, 0 and probably move it a little back so that it doesn't affect what we have. Good. So that's it with the setting. So what we did was we brought in the 3D model inside and we added a little bit of texture to it, and we had set up a couple of lights. We saw how to bring the texture from outside, like a website like Ambient CG. And we are at the stage where we are going to run this and see how it looks in our device. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, as usual, what you need to do is you need to have your Quest 2 connected to your PC using a tethering line, or you could run it the other way by building it up, but I prefer this. So okay, so I can see the textures on the basin, and the roof looks fine. It looks like everything is in proportion. So that's how a basic visualization app can be made. Now there are options which we can provide for the user, like changing the color or changing the position, etc., etc., which makes the app a little complex, but something which can be achieved still. Maybe in the next video, we'll be looking at how to change the texture by means of using an UI, which you could see on a wall maybe. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time.